No,
That's
are you
perfect.
serious? Are you
Yes.
kidding me?
Right when you started.
It didn't cut out on my end.
Okay.
It's still recording. That's a Zoom thing. Damn it. Okay. Welcome to Church Jams Now, the podcast where three former youth group kids and current music nerds deep dive into Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. I, of course, am your co-host, Kylan Savage, and with me, as always, is Mr. TJ Smith.
Bonjour.
Ooh, fancy. And our beautiful producer, Josh Olson.
Hola.
Guys, stop. Hush. We have a guest this week.
Who?
Who is it?
I am... This has been happening to me all week, man. I'm having interactions with my wife, and I apparently just freeze because I keep trying to think of something witty to say, and my whole just like interface just like reboots. And so
down.
I'll end up just standing there just staring. I was trying to think of something witty. Guys, we have Eric McClanahan, a.k.a. I Never Glow on Twitter, coming to talk to us. Eric, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Pretty good. I like that we're all kind of pretending like we haven't been talking for 15 minutes.
I like it
always,
too.
It's
fun.
all those weird little eccentricities of like podcast etiquette are always fascinating to me.
I do want to ask though, is your handle on Twitter I Never Glow or In Never Glow?
It's actually in Everglow.
Okay.
I knew it.
Every time I've read it, I've just thought it was I Never Glow, but
Several
makes
people
more
have said
sense
that.
to be
I
in
should have
Everglow.
capitalized the E, but
You should have.
I should
It
have.
made me think of May the first time I saw it, so I was like, that's what it
Yep,
is.
that's where it came from.
That's
Yep.
what I thought originally too, but well, I messed it up, so I'm just done, I guess. I'm unqualified.
Yeah, do you quit?
I quit this interview. I quit the podcast. You guys can go on without me.
I kind of like I Never Glow though, so I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
It's your alter ego. Whenever
Yeah.
you're feeling a little more curmudgeonly, like on those cranky days, you can be I Never Glow.
Yep, I can do that.
Kylan, what's happening tonight?
Yeah,
what are we
so we're doing something different. I'm always fascinated and always get a little nervous and sweaty when we try something that's different than our normal format. We thought it would be super cool to bring Eric on because he was the co-creator of the CCM Tournament 2023 on Twitter, which is like kind of blown up.
Yeah.
And you're doing the Smash Hits tournament right now. And so I just wanted to bring you on, Eric, and kind of talk about sort of the genesis of that. But before we get to that, I would love to know sort of your history with Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. Did you grow up specifically listening to Christian music? Did it kind of come to you later? Give me your origin story.
So I grew up independent fundamental Baptist. So anything with drums and electric guitar and all that was the devil's music.
Right.
So I kind of became a bit of a rebel at some point and started looking for the K-Love type stations on my radio and getting real edgy.
Edgy.
Yeah.
And started listening to that, which grew into, just it started with like For Him, who was probably them and Boys to Men were my first real favorite bands. And
Very
so,
cool.
yeah, and then from For Him, got into DC Talk and Jars of Clay, and then into 7-Day Jesus and All Star United and the little bit less mainstream bands. Then into, metalcore and post-hardcore and
Heck yeah.
all that. And my tastes have just kind of been all over the map in as far as Christian music goes and somewhat even as far as non-Christian music goes.
Did you get into any trouble of like your parents found a For Him CD and they're like, what are you listening to?
There's drums.
My mom would not let me buy the Jesus Freak CD single because I guess Jesus and freak should not be in the same sentence or something.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
remember that
And-
discourse.
And a couple of my friends, they were brothers, their mom said that I was a bad influence for bringing POD CD into their
Oh,
house.
dang.
Oh,
Interesting.
Man, oh, man.
Yeah.
You.
She like called your mom up and then your mom had to like sit down and have a talk with you.
Oh, God.
I had that
Some
happen
bad
before.
influence.
Yeah.
Bad
Yeah.
influence
Wow.
for POD, man.
Mhm.
Okay, so to play our CJN bingo game, I have to ask, where did you buy said POD CD? Was it a Family Christian Bookstore?
Target,
it
actually.
Mardell's Target. Okay, we haven't had a
Target.
Target yet.
Wow, that's a first.
Had a Target.
That makes sense.
I guess I wanted the unedited cover of Fundamental Elements of Southtown, so
Yeah.
had to hit up the
There
Target.
you go. Yep.
That's so great.
They didn't just have a sticker over the front of the case or something like that.
No, the Family
Classic
Christian
Family
store
Christian.
had, well, they had like a black background going around the actual logo in the middle of the Southtown album. I guess there's some things in the background of it that I don't know
Really? I
have
didn't
some
know
kind
that.
of meaning. Yeah,
Oh wow, I feel like I'd heard about that. Like, I feel like you're saying that it's reminding me of like hearing about like, oh, this cover is like controversial, like when my buddy's like having it or something. But
yeah. And I was analyzing it the other day. I'm missing something. I don't see what's so controversial, but anyways.
That's so great. I haven't heard For Him as a major group on anyone we've talked to yet. So
That's true.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
this
It's
is a
weird because we were
first.
just making For Him jokes like yesterday, right, guys? Like
True,
in our
yeah.
group chat.
Yep.
I love For Him. The message that album wore that thing out.
Well,
Nice.
we'll have to have you back whenever we cover that album.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems
well,
like we got our
I-
guest figured out for that.
well, it seems like from what you're posting about on Twitter, like you're very much like, I don't know, like in all sides of like the CCM camp. Like you're pretty well balanced in all of it. To whereas like all of us, like, and I think we grew up a little bit on like later in like the early 2000s when Under Oath was big and whatnot. So like we know about those bands and like we listened to like DC Talk and Newsboys when we were kids. But then like we like we got into like the newer side of things and we're not super familiar with the CCM. But you seem to be pretty much like pretty well familiar with like both sides of like the rock, like the underground Christian side, and then like the CCM radio stuff, right?
Yeah, I think so. We had Ichthus Music Festival every year just down the road from me, and I would go to that every year, and I would go from the heavy stage to the main stage and hit some of the indie stages, and yeah, I liked it all. You know, I had at some points I was more into kind of one thing than the other. It took me a few years to get into the metal and hardcore solid state records type stuff, but
Right.
I took that jump into CCM pretty fast and kept moving with it pretty, at a good rate.
And
You
it's stuck
found your
with you
lane.
too, though, of like still keeping the CCM in your rotation as you got into the heavier stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, Jars of Clay, they've been one that has been a regular part of my listening rotation since 1995, however long that is now.
That's great.
Nice.
So this is your opportunity to tell us how wrong we were on our Jars of Clay self-titled. Which
Yes.
we
Yeah.
were gonna have Josh Baylog on as well, and I know on Twitter there's some points of contention between our final verdict of the Jars of Clay record. Because
And that's great.
didn't
We
love
we welcome it.
Exactly.
I'll say it's fallen down my rankings over the years. Much Afraid has been my favorite of theirs ever since it came out, and
Hmm.
I think it's aging pretty well. The debut album, I agree with a lot of y'all's points. I would still say it's a bop, but
Right.
And that's cool.
but
Stand by it,
I
man.
can see some of the critiques.
It's so funny.
For
I guess
sure.
Cortland Coffee and I are still the only two. If I left the zoo, stands.
I
That's okay.
I love that album. I would put it. I mean, that 3 album run from self-titled to Much Afraid to If I Left the Zeus,
It's pretty
probably
good.
one of my favorite 7 or 8 3 album runs.
Nice.
Ever.
That's great. Something that is why I think, this is just a theory on my part, but why I think that we've sort of connected on Twitter is you seem like a real album guy, like kind of the same way that we're like album guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you seem to be pretty thoughtful about like digging into discographies and like full records and like really thinking about records as a whole. And I'm just realizing now that I don't have a question. I was just saying I think that's cool.
I am, but I feel like I'm simultaneously a singles guy because
You're a little of both.
yeah, I get into like doing favorite songs lists, favorite
Right.
25 favorite songs by this artist.
Yeah, you've got a
100
lot of
favorite
those
songs of
on
all time.
website, on your blog and stuff. You
Yeah.
got a lot of
Yeah, I
favorite
was gonna
songs.
try to take over this episode and just be like, we brought you on to talk about the CCM tournament, but really, we're just gonna talk about your top 100 Starflyer songs because that's what I want to talk
There
about.
it is.
Josh
Josh
is hijacking
Josh
the episode.
only ever wants to talk about Starflyer. Like that's
Nothing
literally
wrong
all
with
he
that.
ever wants to talk about.
Great band.
Every artist mentioned Starflyer and like how much they love, and like Troy mentioned like how cool it was like getting to work with Starflyer because he was such a big fan. So I was like, everyone, no matter who your favorite artist is, they're a Starflyer fan most likely. Like,
Yeah.
so
It's a
good.
band's band.
Yeah.
It's a band's band,
band.
man. I'm trying to make it at everyone's band though. That's what I'm trying to
It
do
should
with this
be.
show.
I know.
It's a
You've
good
been trying with
mission.
me. I've been getting into Starflyer lately because of you, Josh. So
Oh, cool.
I was late getting into them too, for what it's worth. I think it was mid 2000s, I think, before I really realized that they're a great band.
You looked up one day and you're like, there are 12 albums already.
Yeah. On all my tooth and nail samplers, and it's like I never really gave them a good shot or
Right.
something. And
Yeah.
I know. Well, for
Again.
me, like it took me until like an embarrassingly late point in my life to realize that Starflyer 59 was not the same as KJ52.
Oh no.
Oh, wow.
It was that 5 in there, man. The
Oh,
5.
my
The
gosh.
5 just like messed me up.
I mean, between that and Project 86,
Project
like,
86.
there's just
yeah.
something with
And
like,
maybe
a
Stellar
word,
Cart in there too. There's something.
number.
It's all. Yeah, I know. It's embarrassing.
And
It's
Building
embarrassing.
429, just all
Yeah.
these.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Pack
Yeah.
217. Like,
There
yeah,
you
there's
go.
just too much. Like, too many random words and numbers, guys. Let's dial it back. 90s, 2000 CCM.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I want to transition a little bit into the CCM tournament, but kind of like Josh was getting at before we started recording. I don't want to like. I don't know. We don't want to hit on the same things that like every other podcast has been doing. So if there's something that you're just like, I already talked about this on this podcast, just bring it up and we'll
And plug that one.
yeah, plug it exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because isn't there like a whole podcast now like just about it, like
There
that
is.
started that we're,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, can you clarify that for me? Because you're like not involved in that, right?
I had no idea it was going on until
That's so funny.
I got on Spotify and searched CCM tournament just to see if there were any episodes about it that I missed. And I came across a whole podcast series about it.
How many
Wild.
episodes have they already done?
They had done 4, I
They are
think, when I found
turning
it.
those
Crazy.
out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I started the 5th episode today, and they were like, shout out to Eric McClanahan and Josh Baylock, who listen to us now.
What a weird
That's so
world.
funny. Why wouldn't
The
they just
internet.
like ask you to? That's so funny. I mean,
I was wondering that too. I don't know.
but I get it. When we started our podcast, we were super anxious about like we think everyone's a celebrity until we talk to them.
But
Well, I
they're
mean-
2 of them are radio hosts, so like it's a very well done podcast. Like
That's so
I didn't
funny.
know what to expect, but it's
Right.
top notch.
Nice.
So
nice.
funny.
That's so funny. Well,
I
we had
love
like
that exists. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
I was telling Kylan, I kind of had like a Twitter poll idea too, like as a spinoff of, not a spinoff, but like kind of somewhat inspired from yours. But I'm like, do I need to like reach out to Eric and be like, hey, is it okay if I like start doing a Twitter poll? Like,
Yeah, Eric, you've
about
become
Christian
the
music?
like
You're the
the
guy.
de facto like CCM poll guy.
Yeah, you're like
Yeah.
the CCM Thunderdome master.
Well, Twitter's going to ruin that for me. So
Yeah, I know. They're gonna get rid of everything. But so okay, first off, how long you been on Twitter?
2009, I think I started, and my sole purpose of being on Twitter was to tweet to college basketball recruits and tell them they should come to Kentucky.
That's great.
Did you win anyone over?
Nice.
I don't believe I did.
It was worth a shot.
Yeah, so I deleted that account a couple years later and started over, and
That's so funny.
yeah, and have almost no care for Kentucky basketball anymore.
Hey, I
You
think
moved
you
on
and
to a better passion.
the majority of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Ouch. There goes all our
Sorry, I
listeners
wasn't
in
trying to be
Kentucky.
mean. I wasn't trying to be mean. I was trying to be
No.
funny.
No, I get it.
Yeah, tell me about like the genesis of the CCM tournament, because I feel like right before you did it is when like So I feel like we kind of connected like right before that kind of started. So I want to know, how'd you kind of like get the idea to start doing it? How did you and Josh kind of come up with the seating and what made you want to do it?
I had a few tweets about 90s and 2000 CCM kind of take off on Twitter and get, a lot of engagement and views and everything. And I'd gained a good amount of followers who were specifically interested in that. Somebody named Dave Bergren tweeted me and said, you should do a March Madness CCM tournament. And I was like, that's a cool idea. And Leah Payne, who is like a CCM guru,
Yeah.
said yeah, you should go for it. And so, her having my back and him suggesting it and all that, I was like, okay, let's do it.
Why not?
Yeah. And Josh saw that, Josh Baylog, and he sent me a message and said, I was, thinking, trying to get the Jesus Freak Hideout guys to do some kind of tournament. And I think what he had in mind was a 2003 albums tournament, and
Oh
they
yeah.
did
Mm.
they did end up
Mhm.
doing that. But I guess he had a list of artists and things like that from the era, and he sent me a message, giving me some of his info and stuff like that on
Hmm.
info he had on artists from the time that
Yeah.
he thought should be in. And within like 30 minutes of me saying, well, you can help, if you want, since it doesn't look like this is going to work out for what you were hoping for.
Yeah.
And within 30 45 minutes, he had sent me a seated list of 64 artists that should be
Wow.
should be in it.
That's
Respect.
impressive, man.
Maybe there's something about guys named Josh, because that's like a real Josh Olson move.
It is a
That's
Josh. Yeah,
like
feels familiar.
everyone needs a Josh if you're doing.
Everyone needs a Josh. That's true.
Everyone needs a Josh.
This is our shameless
Yeah.
attempt to get Josh on the podcast. So,
I'm sure Josh will come on eventually.
yeah, we'd love it.
So okay, so then he sent you this list. All right, so
Mhm.
what happens next? I'm intrigued.
I tried not to look at it too hard, and I said, well, let
Uh-huh.
me come up with my own list, and we'll see
Right,
where,
kind of compare.
compare. And I went home and started to do that after work that day, and looked at our lists, and we had, maybe 8 that were not matches. And
Oh wow.
since it was kind of my thing, I guess I kind of went with my choices on those.
Right.
What were some that didn't line up? Out of curiosity, are there any that you
Uh,
can think of?
he had becoming the archetype in the metal
Hmm.
rock region, and Zayo were not in, so I swapped Zayo in for becoming the archetype. There were a few more I can't think of off the top of my head.
That's crazy that it was only
I think it's a
8
good
though.
swap. Yeah,
Like,
I know.
That's an estimate. It wasn't a
Right.
whole lot.
yeah.
That's nice and like affirming when you're like, oh, okay, good, we're on the same page with this. Like, there's
Yeah,
only a few
well,
differences.
we're both kind of students of CCM.
Did y'all go in having, because like I thought it was cool that you had kind of like the 4 corners, like the categories. Like, did you talk about that with him, or were y'all kind of already on that same page?
That was all Josh when he sent me his seated list before I even had time to really think about things. He already had that, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Nice.
And yeah, we went with that.
Do you know how did he pick? Like, how did he seed everything? Is there like what was the process behind that?
I take that back. He didn't already have everybody seated, but he had them numbered, 1 through
Numbered.
16 of each of them. And I suggested we divide up the regions for seating. I did the rock, alt, and metal because I feel like that's more my specialty than him. And I did youth group, and then he did CCM radio and the Pioneers region. I think I went exactly with his seating choices on those. I didn't change any of the seating choices. So
Wow. That's
So
cool.
what was the process behind, like, what did you take into consideration on yours on how you did that?
I'm a pretty big stats guy, so like I looked at Spotify,
There you
plays,
go.
and I have a general knowledge of, album certifications and things like that. Just I don't know, I go through spells where I just search every artist I can think of in the RIAA database to see who's gold and platinum.
Man, I use that all the time for the show.
Yeah, oh, I love it. I've had that tab open for several weeks now, doing a dive into it. So that, and then just knowing from my recent CCM tweets, kind of that like
Just
me
kind of
without
what's
you
getting
are,
engagement and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like me without you are a bigger hit with my fan or with my followers than like number of fans who bought their album would be compared,
Right.
you know, to DC Talk or something like
Yeah,
that.
well, so
Mhm.
that was sort of the most interesting thing to me about the tournament. Like as the tournament kind of progressed, was kind of seeing who had like a very online fan base. You know,
Mm,
because I feel like there are some between that one and then the new one that you're doing too. There seems to be this like, excuse me. There are some like very vocal fan bases that are like very online that kind
Yeah.
of come through for some bands in ways that like you wouldn't expect. But that's sort of the nature of Twitter in general. You know what I mean? I want to know what were some of your favorite moments, like some of your favorite matchups that like maybe didn't go the way that you expected, and then also the inverse of that, of like
What were
was
some
there
ones
anything that
that
was
hurt?
like devastating to you personally? I'm just
One
curious.
in the first round, I'll say that he had Norma Jean and Me Without You seated against each other, and I was like, I know I have to vote for Me Without You, but it pains me not to vote for Norma Jean in the
Yeah.
first round
Right.
too.
That's
Like,
tough,
well,
man.
if I had thought about what seeds actually matched up before I was actually typing the artists into the bracket,
Mm-hmm.
that probably wouldn't have happened. I was more concerned with getting the actual seeding right and worried about who was matching up in the first round.
Right.
So, yeah, that was my bad on that.
Hey, jammers. I always feel weird saying jammers now.
why? It's a good-
It's the best.
Because we don't do it consistently enough.
we only do it whenever it deserves
It's
to
not
be used.
overused.
That's true. All
We
right.
save it for
Hey,
special occasions.
jammers. Thanks for taking time out of your podcast listening experience to join us here in Adland, where we're going to talk about Collide Records.
CollideRecords.com, in fact, is the URL that you would want to go to experience everything that Collide Records has to offer, and it is amazing. What do they have?
They got all kinds of music that you could want: CDs, vinyl, music that we cover on the show, that a lot of artists that you'll hear here, and then also just other artists is not limited to that. So you can pick up something that you're hearing us talk about on the show, and then something else that just came out from a big time artist. They got anything that you want, really.
U2.
They got that new Songs of Surrender, that big old box set.
They got that
So, and
sweetness.
the cool thing is that they've got big releases, but they've also got some like pretty niche stuff in there that like is hard to find, especially if you're looking at CDs. I've picked up a few rare CDs from Collide, and it's pretty cool. So they got some good stuff on there to find, stuff that you can't really find in print anymore.
That's the coolest thing, for all of you haters out there saying that we sold out.
I'm glad you said that,
Is
Kylan.
that
Everyone's
90s
saying
movie?
that about us these days.
Listeners, he just waved his finger. He wagged his finger at us.
This is legitimately staying in the
Please,
for
please, it needs
sure. Yeah, no, we love Collide Records, man, because the inventory that they have is just astounding for music nerds like ourselves. And for our listeners, if you find something that you really like on colliderecords.com, at checkout, if you type in Church Jams Now in the promo code section, you get 20% off
That's so good.
your first purchase. Yeah. You get 20% off your first purchase, which is
Amazing.
just
I think we
super
can
rad.
all confirm that it does work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We've all confirmed that it works, which is
Very
so
cool.
cool. Yeah. I love being able to partner with Collide Records. I'm going to say it one more time, and then we'll get back to the show. Visit colliderecords.com. And if you find something that you really love, when you're checking out in the promo code section, type in Church Jams Now for 20% off your first purchase.
Sweet, sweet savings. Do it now.
Oh, no.
That
was good.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What were some of your most unexpected moments, like bands that like pulled through in a matchup that you didn't expect? It's a two-part question. What were some of those moments that you really personally enjoyed, and the ones that hurt?
The biggest surprise to me, I guess, would have been Cademan's cause of the 15 beating Hillsong United.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The worship artists just didn't do real well in this, and
Yeah.
which was kind of surprising. I really liked seeing Rich Mullins, get as far as he did.
Oh
That's one
yeah,
of my
because I
favorites.
remember I saw some people tweeting about like how he was like kind of like going viral again, and like that was cool to see. Like
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
trending on
Rich
talking
Twitter.
Mullins was
about
trending, yeah.
like
Yeah, and
That's
still
crazy.
lost to 5 Iron
And
Frenzy.
still lost to Five
Still
Iron.
lost.
even
Well,
though
my-
Reese Roper plead. to
I know,
vote
my favorite
for-
thing was
for
that-
Rich.
Five Iron Frenzy was just like, we don't deserve this.
Please vote for Rich.
Yeah.
One of the ones that hurt was Blindside losing to Striper.
Oh, I didn't know that. I missed that part, and I am now so sad. I am so sad right now in this moment. I gotta go, guys. I gotta go.
Yeah.
I had Striper seated ahead of Blindside because that felt like the right thing, but I didn't think
Right.
that would actually be how things played out.
Oof.
I was very wrong and very sad.
That is surprising to me,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
because I would definitely think that Blindside would have a more active online present fan base than
For sure.
Yeah.
But, I feel like Blindside's just been getting screwed left and right, like, since they started. You know what I mean? Like, they've always gotten the short end of the stick, whether with, like, record deals or...
And yet
they
they persevered,
Exactly.
and we're all so much better for it.
Exactly.
Do
Yeah,
we know
one
if
of my
Christian
favorites.
Linskog knows how the bracket turned out? Do we know?
I never
if he
heard
cares?
anything from Christian on it.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, so I don't
Man,
know.
maybe we got to get that hot take. That's my
He's
goal
just-
for next year, y'all.
he's somewhere in Sweden just
Yeah.
trying to survive the winter. Just like,
Yeah.
Best of luck.
like, almost summertime, guys.
He's just
he's
trying
a
to not.
he's an
die.
Instagram user, so
there it is,
okay.
there it
Okay.
is, yeah.
yeah.
I'll get at him. I'll slide into those DMs,
There you go.
those
Do
Swedish
it.
DMs.
The Swedish DMs. There we go. I got the tagline for the episode.
Yeah,
That's it.
it seemed like you were being pretty neutral for the most part. You were doing a good job of not swaying anyone. Was there like, you mentioned Blindside? Were there other bands that you were like secretly pulling for? Like, come on.
I did not fill out my own predictions or my hopes of a bracket because I didn't want to have any kind of
You didn't want to sway
unfair.
anyone.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't want to have any bias.
That's very admirable.
It
I
is,
just
it
have
is.
to say, like,
Respect.
I don't think I
Thanks.
could resist that temptation.
No,
It's got to be hard being
definitely.
commissioner, man. Like,
Well, in the Smash Hit tournament going on right now, I had to put out a tweet yesterday saying about how happy I was that Drawing Black Lines reached the Sweet 16
Yeah.
and that Falling Up beat Mercy Me. So I have to keep all that in check until
after
they're
yeah.
eliminated.
Yeah, and then you can indulge a little bit.
Yeah.
That's great.
I would have liked to have seen Living Sacrifice beat Under Oath. I love Under Oath, but Living Sacrifice is my favorite heavy band in the world.
Mm.
Hmm.
Project 86 and Anne Berlin was probably the toughest matchup for me. Those are both top 10 bands for me.
Mm.
I think I tweeted or I texted Josh about that when that matchup came out.
Oh yeah, because you would text me when there's like when there were like really difficult ones, and you're like, "What did you vote for?"
Yeah. Josh and I were just texting throughout the whole thing because, like, yeah, I feel similar. I was never a big Project 86 fan. I was always like way more of an Amberlin fan, but I was trying to take this pretty objectively too, of like not just the albums that I have most nostalgia for, but like thinking of longevity. And whereas like I don't love the newer Amberlin stuff, and the Project 86 stuff started at a low bar for me, but it's like always kind of constantly been like pretty consistent output. So
Yep.
Yeah, because you have to like weigh like their whole catalog, and you're like, well, where do you put it? And like influence and what they did for the scene kind of stuff.
Right.
I feel like there's obviously different ways you could take it. You could just vote for your favorites, but Kyla and I were like kind of like voting for like what is like a band that we want to vote for, but also taking into effect what they've done for the scene collectively and how good their overall catalog is. So
except
Yeah.
for the travesty that was NF beating out Larry Norman.
oh
But-
Oh, yeah.
that just we just have on this show. We just have such an affinity for Larry Norman,
Yeah,
Oh,
we got a
he's
soft
great.
spot for Larry.
and I'm
I
just
love
such an old man. I'd never heard of NF, but
I love NF too, but yeah, he shouldn't have beat Larry Norman. NF fans second to only Five Iron Frenzy in their devotion to seeing their artist win.
for real, dude.
Mhm.
Okay, so
The two
yeah, that takes
Colts.
us to the fact for listeners of ours that weren't aware of how this went. Five Iron Frenzy won,
They swept it.
which is pretty crazy. And I love the fact I love that Reese had a trophy made for himself.
Yeah, I saw
He
that.
did not actually have that made for himself. I had it made and sent it to him.
You made it? Oh, that's so cool.
Well, that's
I
what I
don't
thought.
know.
I thought you
I don't
made
know
it.
if the person who runs the Twitter. I was actually talking with fans in the I Hate Five Iron Frenzy Facebook group today about it because yeah, I thought it was kind of weird that they said Reese made it. So I don't know if whoever runs the Twitter account
Okay, that is weird.
didn't
Well, I'm glad we
realize.
cleared that up. I'm glad
Yeah.
that that's cool that you made that. That's pretty sweet. That
That's
actually
the thing about the internet. It's dangerous when you make jokes and then people actually take it as
Yeah.
reality, and it's like that could reflect weirdly, especially on somebody like Reese, where he would like never do that.
right.
Also, at the same time, I can see Reese doing that though.
I mean, if he did, it
Yeah.
would be as a total joke.
oh yeah, for sure.
But that's
But-
really sweet. I love that you did that.
Thanks.
Did you do it for all 48 members of Five Iron Frenzy too?
I just did the one trophy. They can
they can
cut
share
it
it.
up into yeah.
Yeah, they can mail it to each other throughout the year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that that Five Iron won, and as
I
you
was
know,
too.
as I posted on Twitter, at this point, I think Five Iron Frenzy is weirdly the most covered band on our show,
It's true.
That's all.
and I don't think any of us are like huge Five Iron Frenzy fans. I don't know how that. I
I
think,
think
it just
I'm the
kind
biggest Five Iron fan of the three of us.
I think
I think
so.
you are.
Yeah, but I was fascinated by that. But it was really cool to see, like, I just thought it was really cool that you created this thing just for fun, and it's really become like, I don't know, I've just like, as someone that has been on Twitter also for like 12 years or something, I go through these phases where I'm just like, oh, everything on Twitter just like sucks. Like I don't want to use it. But I've noticed a real sort of resurgence in conversation about CCM and just Christian music in general, that a lot of it seems to have stemmed from this thing that you're doing, which is really cool. So I guess I'm curious, how do you feel about that? About like, do you feel a sense of ownership about like creating a sort of community online, or like how do you feel about it?
I do kind of feel that way. I don't know if it's misplaced or not, but I kind of feel like there is a new kind of excitement or just a very nostalgic moment for people where they're getting back to these old albums or some artists that are still going, and
Yeah.
I mean it's been cool to see. Yeah.
It's exciting to me to see it as an opportunity for people to connect with others that they might not have connected with at all, because you've kind of created this groundswell and this like hub of conversation around something that a lot of us, myself included, have kind of like moved on from. Maybe like I'll
Yeah.
say that like I shifted for a while and was only listening to like primarily secular music, and I was kind of like off in the weeds of that world, and I still love it. But to have somebody lean into this culture of music so like intentionally, and to give all these other people a reason and an opportunity to connect over this stuff is like, I think it's really special, you know, like it's exciting.
Yeah, it feels like a special thing. On a personal level, I feel like all my years of spending every free dollar on CDs and going
paying
to
off.
every show and festival,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, this actually was not just for my own enjoyment, and that I can share that with other people and help fuel their love of it. I mean, it's been really cool.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's you know, if I'm being completely honest, like that's sort of like what we're going for on our show. And I would be lying if I didn't say that a little bit of having you come on to talk about it was like we just kind of want to be friends with people that want to talk about Christian music from
Yeah.
the 90s and 2000s. Like
Yeah,
it's just super
exactly.
cool. Like it's cool to talk to people about specifically this kind of music that we uh, grew up with, and like TJ said, like a lot of people maybe have like moved on or like not thought about some of these things for a long time, and to be able to connect to people that are still like actively engaging with it is just like super cool. And so yeah, I think we just personally really appreciate what you've been doing on
Well,
on Twitter
thanks.
with the tournaments and stuff. So
Thanks. I feel like we're kindred spirits on this.
Yes.
yeah,
100%.
exactly.
100%.
Like if we were not all in 4 different time zones, I would just like to buy all you guys a beer and talk about Larry Norman.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Maybe one of these days we can
Yeah.
arrange a big CCM Twitter meetup somewhere or
Dude,
something.
that would be
Yeah.
so
That'd be
rad.
really cool.
That would be so rad.
Honestly, like it's one of those things. Like if this keeps going and like at the current pace and rate that you're going with things on Twitter, like honestly, I feel like something like that could happen at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that
so.
would
For sure.
be- that would
We
be
could
awesome.
do a cruise. That's like the thing that everyone does
it.
now. Like all the podcasts and stuff. There's like a
They
D&D
do
cruise that
podcast
happens
cruise?
every year. there are
Wow.
podcast cruises, dude.
That's crazy.
They're like
That's
a real
crazy.
thing.
I had no
we
clue.
could do an online CCM cruise meetup.
That might hurt the people who were hoping for the full DC Talk tour and only got a cruise out of it.
Right,
though.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that might
Brutal.
cause some trauma for the big DC Talk fans.
Probably. That's so funny.
I have some like technical kind of
Cool.
stuff
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious about.
So I think that was let's do it. Of course, Josh has some technical questions. Josh
I mean,
always
Surprise,
has
surprise.
technical
I like to know how
questions.
things work.
I know. And TJ's probably a very philosophical question. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's hit it. TJ,
Well,
you first.
Yeah, we'll see if that's right. I don't know. I kind of forgot it.
Okay,
Oh no,
we'll
wait,
come back
no,
to you.
no,
Oh,
no, I got it. What? So you've got the smash hit competition going on. What do you anticipate doing next if you see continued engagement, continued groundswell? It's exciting. People are like really connecting. Where would you like to take this? And answer that however you like, as macro or micro, as long term or short term as you can conceive of or want to share. But I'm just excited for you, and I want to know what's next. You know.
That's a good
Yeah.
question. You're a good podcaster, TJ.
I definitely plan to do the big CCM tournament every year since people seem to really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll make some tweaks to it every year. The artists who got blown out this year will probably be replaced with
You're
some
gonna have
others
like a
that were.
losers bracket.
Ooh,
No,
fun.
they'll probably just not be in it this year, and some of the ones that people requested and got angry with me about not being in this one will be in the next one. For my own curiosity, I'm very interested in doing at least one or two more tournaments, but I'll have to take it. I'll have to take the polls to my actual website since Twitter is doing where only people with blue checks can vote in polls.
Right.
Starting on
Can vote.
starting here in a
I thought
couple
it was
weeks.
just people that could have polls because like we obviously just have to all pitch in to get you a blue check mark, but it's only for people that
Well,
can vote too.
Yeah,
That's absurd.
makes no sense. But
Twitter,
but
figure
yeah,
it
I found
out.
out. Yeah, I found out that on WordPress that you can host polls on there and stuff, and that's where my website's through. So
Man, you're
Nice.
gonna crash WordPress next
Yeah,
March.
let's go.
I don't know about that, but yeah. I also thought about I don't know how this would work. Just turning off comments maybe on a post and just having like two album options where you can click like on either one and just to keep it
Oh
on
yeah.
Twitter, or you could
Mm-hmm.
click both if you really like both, which is a little different from how
Yeah.
actual polls work.
Right.
Um,
It's a good workaround.
I may, yeah, I may tinker with that. I feel like taking it away from Twitter will kind of ruin, I guess, the concentrated, excitement
Right.
and kind of
Well, and I think it's
people
potential to
spreading the
reach new
word.
people too, for people that aren't aware of it
Yeah,
now. Like for then they see their band tweet about it, and they're like, "Oh, now this is new to me."
yeah.
So
Right.
It just seems like people right now, at least, are really excited about CCM and CCM adjacent stuff. So
Yeah.
as long as people are into it, I'll probably keep 90% of my tweets about that. I feel like I've got a lot to say and a lot of
you do.
curiosities of my own to work out. That from other people's uh, comments and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll keep that going as long as people are into it. Probably.
That's great. I think it's important to have those people that like are comfortable with having their internal dialogue or their curiosity with music and their exploration with music in public, kind of like to create a discourse and to allow people to join in the conversation just out of their own curiosity and their own like inner monologue almost. Like I think that's a really special thing to do. So I'm I'm here for it, man. Keep it up. Keep doing it.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just curious because like so we've been trying to like step up our Twitter game recently, and it's improved a lot thanks to you, Eric. But like so just like working at like trying to run social media for just our little podcast, and we don't have like just like a small sliver compared to like what you're doing. I'm just curious on like what the workload is like for you for like one just like thinking of like tweets, just like is that just like your brain always going, and then just like organizing that, getting everything like typed out, and then keeping up. And you like do a great job of like responding to almost like each and every single thing, which I'm like, that is so much dedication right there. Like
Yeah.
what does that look like for like investment and just like how much you're putting like time wise and everything? Because from the
Well,
little that
the
we do,
me
I'm like that's a very impressive level that he's putting in.
Mhm.
the me responding to a lot and liking almost every tweet is me being a people pleaser, and I'm going to have to get
Oh.
over that, or I'm going to crash. To be honest,
Yeah.
it's a lot. I work full time. I have
Totally.
2 kids and a wife, and it's almost every free second now is going to Twitter, and I'm going to have to figure out a
Have you
way
had to get
to.
like a second battery for your phone because your phone is just always like Twitter notifications all day?
It's yeah, it's I'm going to have to soon. It's dying a lot faster for
I
sure.
bet.
Um, I don't want my mind to always be on Twitter when I'm
Right.
with other people and things like that. And it feels like a lot happened at once, and I'm still trying to process how
Yeah,
to
sure.
manage my offline life with it. And yeah, it's taken a lot of time. Um, yeah, I'm pretty exhausted and gonna have to do something about it so I don't
Yeah,
burn
We
you
out.
gotta take a break after the smash hits. You gotta take a well deserved Twitterless cruise.
Yeah, and then
Uh,
find a way to monetize the whole thing and then hire a social media manager and you might give Josh a
And
call.
then you're just the
Yeah,
idea guy. You're just like,
yeah,
put this
exactly.
poll up. I got another one. Yeah, you're not even on it. You're just coming up with ideas. Yeah. So I
yeah.
just wanted. Yeah, a lot of people have like. I think it's been a cool like seeing people reach out and like thinking you and Josh are like putting all this on. But yeah, I'm like
Mm,
the amount of work that y'all are putting into this thing and all these polls is staggering. Because
admirable.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it can only be a ton and ton of work.
Yeah, I
Yep.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I don't know what else to say, man. I mean, we really appreciate it. We're glad we're glad you did it, man. It was just like it was a super cool
Thanks.
thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, we, as fellow music nerds, it's always fun when whether you know someone in real life or you just meet them on Twitter and then they get retweeted by like DC Talk or like quote tweeted by DC Talk. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So,
It's yeah. My favorite was definitely the Amy Grant thing, just because it
was
was
Amy
so
Grant.
funny. Yeah.
And what did she say?
Well, the story is it apparently there was a Facebook group of Amy Grant fans who don't know how to use Twitter, and I guess there was a link posted. This is just my guess. I never figured out the source.
Okay.
A link posted to my poll and said, probably vote for Amy or something like that. And I kept getting continuous comments just saying Amy Grant. Amy Grant, Amy Grant.
That's the
So write-in ballot, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I tweeted and I said, I keep getting comments for Amy Grant. You have to actually vote in the poll.
In the poll.
I said you have to click her name in the poll for your vote to count. And Amy Grant put out a tweet a day or two later, and they signed off Team Amy. I was like, is that a reference to, being Team Amy in the tournament? Because so many artists had commented by
Right.
that point, or are they just saying, this is, Amy Grant's
They're
social media team?
PR
So
people.
I commented Amy Grant on her tweet just to get a feel for what was going on.
Oh,
And she
man.
replied back, Amy Grant, haha, in parentheses.
That's so good.
I think
That's so
I think
good.
she's in on it. And
That's so good.
that was the
I love
highlight.
it.
Yeah.
love it.
Incredible.
That's so good. All right. So for people that have very, very short-term memories, where can people find you online, Eric? Who maybe people who
at
maybe started this
Everglow.
episode. Okay.
At in Everglow on Twitter is where I'm most active. Or at I Never Glow. That'll get you
As
there
the case
too.
may be.
Ineverglow.com is kind of my blog site with a lot of lists, and that's really the only places that I'm very active, at least as far as
Sweet.
CCM
Well, I
content
think
goes.
if you keep this up, we'll see you probably at the next Dove Awards.
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
be like
Yeah.
presenting an award to someone.
Yes.
Yeah,
we can
they're
hope.
like, and from Twitter, you may have noticed
my
the
God.
increased attendance we have at this Dove Award because of Eric's work on CCM tournament Twitter.
Thank you, Eric.
That would be hilarious and awesome.
That's the end goal, right? Is to present a Dove Award. I mean,
Yep.
why are we doing any of this?
Bucket
All of us
list.
are just doing
Yeah.
this to
That's why
hopefully
we
present a
started our
Dove Award
podcast.
one day.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, we won't keep you too much longer. I know it's a little bit later where you are, but I appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out with us and talk about this. I know we kind of joked about For Him, but I really do want you to think pretty hard about what album you'd want to cover when you inevitably come back on the show.
Yeah.
I already know.
so.
It's the
You already
message.
know.
That's the message.
The message.
Yep.
He's ready.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You heard it here first, folks. We're doing
We'll have
it.
to talk to Mr. Schedule himself. Because I'm pretty sure Josh has our podcast planned out through 2027.
Yeah, at least. At least.
I'm so
2027.
curious about all that y'all are going to be doing.
Dude, we
I'm
got some cool stuff
I'm
coming
excited.
up.
Yeah.
We got a fun summer. We got a pretty fun summer coming up. So
It's gonna be lit, as the kids say.
okay, no one says that anymore. Old man. You learned that from
I
TikTok.
plug you guys.
Yep.
I plug you guys every chance I get. And
I know. I
I'll
so
I know, we
appreciate
appreciate
it.
We
it.
appreciate
I
it.
think it's
I
like
love-
Thank you.
so rad. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, it's just super cool to like actually be able to hang out with other music nerds. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for us. I think we're gonna wrap it up here if that's cool with everyone. So from all of us here at Church Jams Now, may all your favorite bands stay together and peace out, Mom Frères.
Peace out, my friend.